This is a must-see film. My favorite film of the year, maybe my favorite film of the decade. If you can see this in a theater, it comes out in December. See it as soon as you can, as fast as you can, as big as you can. It is in my opinion, the cinematic event of the year. So for those of you who don't know, Nickel Boys is a cinematic adaptation of Colson Whitehead's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel that follows Elwood Curtis when his college dreams are shattered after he's sentenced to Nickel Academy, a brutal reformatory in the Jim Crow South. Clinging to his optimistic worldview, Elwood strikes up a friendship with Turner, another student who dispenses fundamental tips for survival at this school. As you can tell, maybe from that trailer footage there, this film has a very unique filmmaking style of filmmaking. It pulls the viewers into the perspective of these two teenagers in a very unique and immersive fashion. The film is shot in the first person point of view. It's pretty much like the cameras are the characters' eyes, and it could be seen as kind of like a gimmick, but it's not. It's crucial to the way the film works. I've also seen some people worried like, oh, am I going to be able to connect to the characters because I'm not going to be able to see them and their emotions? Well, first off, it's a double perspective thing here. So you see when you're in Elwood's point of view, you see Turner and his emotions and faces and vice versa. But also I feel like being in these characters' eyes just makes you even more emotionally connected to them because you feel like you are going through this experience with them because you pretty much kind of in a way are them. It's a famous quote for a reason, but I think it's Roger Ebert said that cinema is an empathy machine, and this is very much the case here with the way this is shot. You are literally in these characters' shoes, and you literally go through everything that they go through emotionally, at least if it works for you. Obviously, if it doesn't work for you, then it's not going to do that for you. It's worthy, even if it doesn't work for you on a first time, to just try it again, because maybe you just weren't in the right headspace and on the same wavelength the first time. But if you do get on that wavelength, which I was this first time, it just makes for a hell of an experience. It is just, I was in awe the entire time. So getting into more in these main two characters, you really start off a good chunk of the film in Elwood's perspective. Elwood is the more innocent, in a way, innocent and naive character. You see him intently watching as he's first introduced to this brutal school environment by, I think he's like the schoolmaster, Hamish Linklater, who is chilling and quite frightening in this in a very subdued way. But you watch Elwood as he watches Hamish Linklater kind of give the rundown and lecture about how they can earn their freedom. And you see how Elwood is like thinking rationally about that. He actually believes the words that is coming out of the schoolmaster's mouth and thinking about, okay, if I do this and this and this right, then I can get out of here and I can go back to pursuing. I mean, he was about to go to college. He can go back, and he was a very smart kid. Like, he had a bright future ahead of him, and then he got stuck in this terrible situation. And he's like, okay, I can get out of here, and then I can be on my way. And then you see Turner, who has been here before, and he knows the whole system of the school, and he knows that it's rigged against them. He's been here much longer. He doesn't have any motivation to leave because he doesn't even feel any motivation or need to leave because, as he says in the film, I don't know the exact quote, but he pretty much just says, out there, it's just as bad as it is in here in this academy. It's just the same. I think Elwood, as a student of Martin Luther King, kind of has that same hope for growth, fighting for equality and against injustice and all that stuff. And he has this hope that they can grow, that the world can get better and become a better place. And he has that same hope for the academy that he hopes he can get out of here. Whereas Turner has kind of just been like, this world is a cruel place, this academy is a cruel place, it's the same thing, nothing's going to change, so why fight against it, pretty much. And it just makes, it's fascinating having these two different characters with these pretty much close to opposite perspectives on life and society and the way they view life and the way they go about life. Having those two different perspectives as your two main lead characters in a film is interesting enough alone, but the fact that they have such different perspectives, and through the filmmaking style, through the conceit of the film, the fact that it's a first-person point of view thing, the film literally forces you into both of their perspectives. So not only do you understand their perspectives as characters, but you understand the perspectives like even more because you are literally looking at life through both of their eyes. They both look at life differently, and you can see that. And the camera itself gives a performance in this film, because the camera is literally the character's eyes. And you can almost tell even before, like, which character is, like, its perspectives you're in, you can almost tell in the way the camera moves which character's perspective that you're in, because they look at the world in a different way. And you just really have to look at the little ways that the camera moves and the different things that the camera looks at and focuses on. You can tell which character is which. The film is pretty obvious most of the time about which character's perspective you are in, but you can tell just in the way the camera moves, like, okay, this is the way Elwood looks at the world, this is the way Turner looks at the world, and they're just such small little nuances within there. Just Everything about this film just makes for such a beautiful, and upon rewatch, just makes for such a beautiful, beautiful cinematic experience that I think everyone should watch. I'm just gonna keep saying it. Please watch it. It is stunning. And like I think the first act or so of the film with Elwood and through his perspective, and then Turner enters the film and just has this big effect on the like entire film going forward. And it's through Turner, like pretty much for the first time, that you're able to truly see Elwood, because that first act, most of the time, the whole time you're looking at like through Elwood's eyes. There's like moments where he looks in like not a mirror, but like the glass, and you see his reflection a little bit. But it's really once you first switch over to Turner's perspective, which is just one of the best scenes of the film. Also, the way that they handle that transition is incredible, and the way you see different scenes from both of their perspectives. But that is that switch, and the first time you see Elwood's face, just like was such a like crazy moment. It's like, wow, I spent so long with this character without like truly knowing them. I feel like I know them, but I barely even know what they like look like. And then I finally get that switch, and it's like, okay, wow, you look much sadder than I expected. Honestly, he has this very sad look on his face that you can see, you can tell through a lot of the film the optimism that he has, like I said before, like through his words. But then the camera switches, and you see his face, and his face does not have the same optimism that his words were conveying beforehand. His face looks sad. It also has a very interesting narrative structure. It's linear for the most part, but there are occasional flash forwards to Elwood's character in the future. It makes it such an interesting feeling, because it feels both very lived in, but also because the future scenes are shot from still a first person perspective, but not completely the same. Um, I don't want to give away too much. I feel like some of these are fun surprises for the film. Um, but yeah, it just feels like the story is almost, it's very lived in, and you're living it in the moment, but also because of the way that narrative is structured, it almost feels like a memory as well. It's just, it makes for, it's beautifully edited, it's beautifully structured, and I just found that narrative structure very effective for this film and for this story. Imagery within this film, the what the camera chooses to focus on, and therefore what the character's eyes and their perspective chooses to linger on, reminds me so much of like the weird things we remember in life. Like for example, I don't want to give away too many details, but when I was younger, like a much younger kid, one of my neighbors hurt her arm like really badly, and like blood was like coming out, like it hit an important vein or artery or whatever. And I just remember I was told to like look away. They didn't want me to see it, so look away. And I just remember looking away and looking down at this dandelion in the grass. That is the main thing I remember from that. It's not the blood spraying out of her arm. It's the fact that most of the time I was just looking down at this one dandelion in the grass. I think it was like eighth grade, how I always sat, like we had assigned seats, but you sat in the same seat. And during a lot of the time I was bored, I would look up, and there was one of those tiles in the ceiling that clearly had water damage. I would just like study it, and I can just like still visualize that exact image myself right now. The like weird, most simple, most minute things that we choose to focus on, um, how they just become ingrained in our minds for some reason. And a lot of that is what you see throughout this film, how you associate that very specific image and that very specific perspective that you had now with that memory. It's like that memory is now completely associated with that one single perspective and that one single image. Speaking of editing and the way the film is edited, there's lots of different like quick cuts and flashes to stuff going on at this historical period, I think, in a way to like under have the audience understand the time of period that the film is set in, as well as what's going on in the world outside of these walls. And I think there are some images as well that you can associate on a more deep thematic level. And if I were to do like a video essay or whatever on the film, I could get more into that, but I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, there are some specific images that like they just cut back and forth to. In particular, I will say there's lots of stuff that I think people, and me included the first time, will be confused about involving animals, and in particular alligators. I don't think this is a spoiler, but because it actually I think will enhance the experience. It enhanced once I knew this information after I saw the film, and then the director RaMell Ross explained it in the Q&A section afterwards. Alligator or black boys back in the day during this time, and I think even earlier, were used almost as like bait for alligators during hunting. And that's just an insane thought, and I'll just leave you with that. But that is, when you see the alligator pop up, I would just have that in the back of your mind, and it's almost like the alligator is like, it's obviously a symbol, but it's almost like a harbinger for things. Is all I'll say. There's this film requires a lot of different viewings, and I feel like you can take different things a lot of different ways. A lot of analysis can be done with this, and those are just my favorite types of films. It's conceptually bold, It's very emotional. It has obviously politics in it. It's very politically focused, and it dares its audience to invest in this style of filmmaking, which I think can be hard for some people. But I think if you do truly invest in it, as it asks you to, you'll be tremendously rewarded for it. The film's violence, I know some of you may be watching this and be like, "Oh, this sounds like a really tough watch. Like, why would I watch this?" The film doesn't really show the violence at all. It's done very tastefully. The film's violence is not really shown. It's more abstract in the way that it is shown. RaMell Ross has explained it at the end of the Q&A the first time I saw the film, and he's explained it pretty much at any Q&A and interview that he's given, and I think he says it better than me, so I'm just going to pop his quote up there. Ross said, "Reproducing trauma makes it seem like that's supposed to happen or that's normal. I'm interested in creating media that's as complex as the result of violence." Because I don't think that this film is about abuse or any of that stuff. I think it's more about the system. I think the abuse is a part of the system, and the film addresses the system that is the Nickel Boys Academy that can obviously be expanded to America at large at this time. But I think the film itself is much more focused on the characters and the emotion, and like their persistence and endurance in getting through these hard times, and love. There's one character I haven't talked about her yet. I will in a second when I get to the performance. Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor, incredible in this film. She just has as Elwood's grandmother, the most loving, just like warm, deeply impactful presence. She doesn't have many scenes, but you just feel her throughout the entire film. But yeah, I think the film is much more focused on it's more focused on love than it is on violence. Now getting to the performances, like I promised, Ethan, hopefully I pronounced his last name right, Ethan Herisse, I think it's Herisse, plays Elwood in this film, and he is incredible. I think you kind of have to talk about the two perspective lead performances together. Brandon Wilson plays Turner. Both of their performances are just, I don't even understand. Like it's an acting challenge that I don't think really any other actors in the history of cinema I can really think of having to face. And that might sound like hyperbole, but like you are like acting with a camera, and like the camera is giving its own performance because the camera is the perspective. Like you just have to think about the way you act through the different perspectives. It's like I think the way you act through your perspective versus the way Turner versus the way the other one will receive you through their perspective, and then the nuances within that, how they act audibly through their vocal performance when the camera is their perspective and you don't really see their face. I don't even know the setup, like, because I'm pretty sure it was still them giving the performance. It was just like probably a camera attached or somehow connected to them. You have to, when you don't obviously have your face as a tool for acting, you have to do a lot with your voice. I feel like they both nail that. You just get really invested in both of these characters. And I think that's partially obviously due to the perspective. I think invests you into who they are, and I feel like connects you with them even more because you're in their shoes. But that's also very much due to their performances. They both kill it. They both go through a lot in this film, and I just cared about both of them deeply. Great chemistry as well. And you never see them on there's one moment actually in the trailer that you see in the trailer, and it's in the promotional images a lot, that you see them in the frame together, because they look up at the ceiling where it is mirrored and you see both of them. And pretty much throughout the rest of the entire film, you don't see them together in the same frame together. And that's insane that they have such incredible chemistry and they only share the screen like visually for a few seconds when the camera looks up and you see them on that like ceiling reflection, and the rest of the time they're not on screen together, yet they have insane chemistry with each other, and their connection and relationship is one of the most affecting that I've felt in cinema this year. And then the performance I was hinting at earlier, Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor as Ethan Harisse's character's grandmother. She pretty much only has like 4 or 5 scenes, and I can remember each and every single one of them quite vividly. Her love almost carries you as a viewer throughout the film as well, because it's like that there is someone on the outside fighting for him. But yeah, it's one of my favorite performances of the year. She has such a powerful screen presence. A scene with a cake, a scene where she visits him at the academy, and through his perspective, you just see her talking to him in both of these scenes, and they're kind of just like monologues directly to the camera. And first off, that's a hard thing for an actor to do. You are trained your entire life to not look at the lens, and to be asked to give a monologue directly to the lens is difficult. And also the monologues themselves are so nuanced in each and every different scene. The cake scene, I'm not going to spoil. She's at different emotional, her character is at different emotional spots in each of those scenes. The cake scene compared to like when she visits him at the academy, there's a ton of nuance going on there with her words compared to her face, and the whole directly to the camera thing. And it's a close up, and it's just incredible work. I don't understand how, we'll get to the Oscars in a second, but it's one of the best performances of the year. It's vividly memorable and impactful. And there's one scene towards the end that will just absolutely shatter and destroy your heart. And it did mine. I sobbed, and it was because of her and her performance. So yeah, she's incredible in this. Everyone's incredible in this, but like, wow. So yeah, guys, this is an extreme filmmaking achievement. I don't say that about, I can't remember the last film I honestly said that about. Like, this isn't, like, my favorite film last year was May December. I wouldn't call that an extreme cinematic achievement. The year before was Tar. I wouldn't call that an extreme cinematic achievement. Great films, but like, this is on another level. This is, I think, really pushing the medium of film forward, in my opinion. Like I said, this may sound like hyperbole to you. I don't tend to be one of those hyperbolic people. I'm very picky about when I choose to use certain words, and when I give 5 stars and such like that. And this is an instant 5-star for me. I adore it. Please, if you are invested in cinema as a language at all, see this film, because I think it will be both very eye-opening and groundbreaking for you, but I think it hopefully will be a trailblazer for cinema going forward. So yeah, watch it. Now getting into the whole Oscar thing of this. I've been a little made fun of because I believe in this as an Oscar thing. I had it recently in predictions, winning picture, director, adapted screenplay, and cinematography. I don't know if that will actually happen. This season is taking lots of twists and turns. Most people still think Nora will win, and that could very well happen. But I have a feeling, I'm just feeling something in the air that this season, I don't think it's just going to be as easy as it. I don't think it's just going to be as easy as Nora all the way. It could very well be. I have a feeling it won't be. And I think there will be lots of twists and turns in who we think will win. And right now, I think that Nickel Boys has a great balance of message and being like important. And also, like I said, it's deeply emotionally impactful. You will cry, you will feel a lot during this film. It's groundbreaking work that is done here on a cinematic level. But yeah, it's cinematically groundbreaking. It's emotional. It's got a political message to it about survival and persistence in a cruel system, cruel American system that seems rigged against a lot of different people. I think that's a message that can be seen as an important film, given the state of the world that people may vote for. But I don't know. That's just my guess right now. I see a path for it, but maybe not. But I feel like even if it's not like I think it's going to be a win contender for the big prize. We'll see. Even if not, I feel pretty confident that it will get nominated for a picture. It's Amazon MGM's main push. They're really pushing it. This is going to be lots of different people's favorite films of the year. It will be mine. I have high doubts that anything that's left this year will top this. There's going to be a ton of passion for this film. I would have it number 1 in pretty much any category I could. And I think lots of people agree with that who like the film. So there'll be a ton of passion. That's what you need to be a strong Oscar contender and get into Best Picture. It will get into Best Picture. It will also get a ton of critics love, and in particular, director RaMell Ross, who this is really his first narrative feature film. He's done documentaries before with Hill County, This Morning, This Evening, which was also acclaimed and did well at the Oscars. It's, in my opinion, easily the best directing achievement of the year. And I feel like the directing branch they have a very specific kind of taste, as we've seen with the films they choose to nominate and the films the directors choose not to nominate. And I feel like this is something that they would like. I think I would have them in there for sure. Adapted screenplay, that is definitely getting in there. It's based off a Pulitzer Prize winning novel. It not only adapts it, but adapts it in such a different way than you'd expect, in such a cinematic way, that translation, I think, is incredible work and deserves to be honored for sure. So I think I'll get that. Cinematography, I think it will be nominated. If it becomes a huge winning contender, it will win that category. It could kind of like be a passion pick, kind of like Zone in Sound last year, where it's like such incredible, outstanding work that's like the highlight of the film in a way, that they'll choose to honor it in that category. And then acting wise, I think Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor is its best bet. I have her in there. She should be win competitive. I don't know. I feel like the much more bigger, more musical performances are the main ones with Saldana and Grande that are in contention to win there. But I think she'll be nominated. I honestly feel like she's the kind of performance in terms of awards trajectory that can almost like miss everywhere and then still end up at the Oscars, because like she might get Critics' Choice, but I doubt that. She won't get Golden Globe. She won't get SAG. BAFTA does not do amazing with American or Black-centric films, so and they don't even have jury votes this year, so I don't know how strong that film will be there. So she could miss all of those, and I feel like this is the kind of film in general and performance that works best with the Academy. Like these precursors are helpful in terms of, because lots of the Academy members are in these different bodies in terms of determining the top tier contenders and what has a good chance at getting nominated. But these precursors don't have the exact same makeup and taste as the Academy. The Academy is still singular. These precursors really help in terms of determining that stuff, but the Academy is still singular in terms of its taste and compared to all the other stuff. And I think this is a film that plays best with that group of people. So yeah, I would have her in there, but that category is very up in the air. She could miss, but I don't understand the people who say that role is too small. Because first off, she's got like 4 or 5 scenes, and pretty much all of them are direct monologues to the camera. It's just like incredible acting work. That's not like it's a super small role like Ross Laney, which I can understand people being like, that's too small for her to get nominated. I still have both of them getting nominated, but I can understand that complaint. This is a much bigger role than I feel like people are making it out to be, and it's a showier role than people are making it out to be. But I mean, that's just me and my perspective. I think if actors like the film, they will love this performance in particular, because this is a performance unlike the other two. When she pops up, she's always on screen, and she just makes you feel the most emotion throughout the entire film. Anytime she pops up, you are on the verge of tears or you are happy. She is like an emotional bomb in this film. Anytime she shows up, like there's a hugging scene that breaks my heart. There's 2 hugging scenes with her that break my heart in very different ways. So yeah, she is a powerhouse, and I've got her in there. And then editing, I think it's a top tier picture contender, and I think it's beautifully edited with the way it flows back and forth in time and all what the images it chooses to cut to and show. So I've got it in there because I think it's a top tier contender, but obviously if it's not, it could easily miss. The sound design is incredible in this. I don't understand how they did it. I need a behind the scenes thing on everything about this film and how they did everything, but the sound in particular, I'm like, how did you do that? It's incredible work. And the score is haunting and just like, it's beautiful. It's like, I can't wait to listen to it again because some of those sounds haven't left me. So in a just world, if it's like a super strong film, it could get those 2 categories. I doubt it will, but I would still definitely have them in like your 10 to 15 range. Keep an eye on it, because if it does overperform, those are categories that you should look out for. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Nickel Boys, its Oscar chances, and all that stuff. At the end of the day, guys, just see the film, even if it doesn't become a huge Oscar-winning contender like I'm hoping it will be. It's at the end of the day an incredible, groundbreaking film that, like I said, if you like cinema, if you are invested in cinema as an art form, as a language, this is a must-see. So like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and see you in the next one.